Hello, everybody. Once again, I'm Limcrafton Jr., aka Zorbalchan Less Than Guru. Right here, we have Mars, the video cat. And today, I want to talk about my optional occupation commoner. So, in the original Palladium, it is known as the peasant farm stable hand. And I just wanted to make it more general. Um, and with all of my occupations, I did want there to be a reason to play it, not just oh, here's an option and not have there be a reason. Um, so the first thing I wanted to show is that this peasant farm stable hand, you needed a minimum of PP of 7. And unless somebody was just going on a pure concept, when you're looking at old school, you don't just go on a pure concept if you have something that is objectively better. So with a PP of 7, you could be various other things up here, or with an equivalent of a 7. You could be a noble, which actually isn't too bad. You could be a mercenary fighter with a PS of 7. Um, the witch originally was the lowest IQ of a 5, but what happens if you roll a character that is completely horrible and doesn't fit it? Yeah, I understand. That might make you want to re-roll, but I did want to have something that had no attribute requirements whatsoever and give my players a challenge if they wanted to be. Plus, this commoner takes a role of a lot of backstories in literature, movies, TV shows, comics, etc., where somebody is common and then they become something better. They become an adventurer, they become a hero. And that's something that I looked at. So requirement, attribute requirements is absolutely nothing. Alignment is nothing. Physical conditioning, these are people that work manual labor jobs. So my physical conditioning, I gave them a +4. So that already is an advantage over, say, any of the academics, which all start with 0. Armor tier, though, is 3. They're not trained in armor. And the restrictions for this one is this one, you must be your character's first occupation. And one of their big bonuses is to help a player with either a character that has lower stats than normal, or a character that has rolled decently but didn't get something that they really wanted and only missed it by a point or two with attribute requirements. So this is a first. This is your farmer becoming a great sword master or something like that. If they want to retire on a farm, then they could do so. But for the adventuring purposes, this is something that is a character's first occupation. So, occupational skill, they look at the whole secondary skill list and they choose one of those as a profession specialty. This is where you could choose the farm and be a farmer, or other things to be that. If you pick carpentry, you could be a carpenter. You pick smithing, you could be a blacksmith, things like that. And you get a +50%. So you know your craft. As anybody who's played any Palladium games, normally your attribute percentages start really low. So a +50% boost on your initial level 1 percentage is very high. I want these people to know their stuff. So when they get out there, they do have knowledge about what they know. And this is also something that occurs in a lot of fiction, is you have some commoner who's going along on an adventure, even if it's not willingly, they get caught up in a crazy situation. And even if there's some farm or stable hand out in the rural areas and people in the cities consider them local yahoos or whatever, they can know their craft and show that they are smart about something. So that was one of the reasons. If we look at the level chart, that's where the big and the main difference between the Palladium farm, stable hand, peasant and my commoner is. And that's because there's a lot of times, or more than any of the other occupations, it's the only occupation that you can get attribute boosts. So at level 1, that's where you get your basic skills like any Palladium game. Level 2, you choose to raise an attribute. So if you really wanted to be a wizard and you didn't have that IQ, but you only missed it by a point, be a commoner. At level 2, you raise it, and then you go learn to be a wizard. And that fits all of those stories out there. Or if you're a wizard, or if you could be a wizard, but you don't want an injury to bring you so you can no longer stay in that occupation, you could be a commoner that's smart enough to be a wizard. Raise your attribute to where you consider comfortable, and then you become a wizard. And again, that's a trope in so many stories that I love, whether it's the Wheel of Time, the beginning of the Wheel of Time, where Rand is a stable hand, to where you have a cook's assistant of Pug in the Rift War saga, just in anything like that, or you're Lord of the Rings, you're a hobbit farmer or whatever your hobbit is doing, and you go out in the world and become something. So this is that character occupation that allows you to take those stories. And if you wanted to, you could even have a whole group. Hey, we're all different commoners. Maybe we're living in the same village. You can have that trope, and then you divvy up what occupations you become later. I'm going to become a fighter. I'm going to become a cleric. I'm going to become a mage, etc. So 3 and 4, those are your standard elective and secondary skill additions. Then level 5, you get another point to an attribute. Level 6, you get an additional hit point, 7 additional shock point. 8 is a couple of elective skills. 9 is another additional attribute. A 10 is 3 secondary skills, another hit point at 11, 2 elective skills at 12, an additional shock point, and then 14 and 15 you get an attribute. So even if you only were a commoner, you could make yourself something. And if we look at elective skills, you could be a hand-to-hand general, you could be a horsemanship. So if you wanted to be somebody who was into horses, you could choose that, and then a complementary secondary skill to get your plus 50 boost, and that's where you could be your stable hand or something like that. Hunting, medical, again, as in all Palladium first edition games, the elective skill list, this is the skill list that you have to choose from. You can't choose something outside of it. And the secondary skill list is these are all of the skills that you're able to get bonuses from, but you can choose any of them. And a lot of them also, all of these would add, so you could have more things. So if you're going with that kind of that stable hand, or the person who takes care of horses and stuff, you could take a horsemanship general. You could do animal husbandry. You could uh, pick some maybe like fashion tools, so you know how to make various bits and repair saddles, and you get your general repair and leatherworking based off of that. So again, you can make a well-rounded commoner that might you might have a player that just, I'm gonna see if I can go all the way with being a commoner, or you could take that tried and true trope of that commoner who becomes somebody. So that is my commoner, and again, that's why there's no different uh, colors here, because once you're out, you're out for adventuring purposes. Having said that, once again, I am Limcraft Jr., aka Zoralchan Less Than Guru, and until next time, I will catch you later.